I think that for every example you have of a founder talking about the Christian basis of America, you can find even sometimes the same founders saying the opposite. For example, famously, John Adams signs the Treaty of Tripoli, which says that the government of the United States is not in any way founded on the Christian religion. Now, you're probably going to want to say something like, now, I don't know, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but look, this is the Treaty of Tripoli, right? This is he's quite clearly just writing to some Muslims, trying to,
Stop
calm the
them from
tides.
taking our sailors. Also
Quite
negotiated
right.
by a Jeffersonian diplomat.
Quite right indeed, as well. And so, okay, sure. In fact, why don't I avoid putting words in your mouth and tell me what you make of this Treaty of Tripoli, in which we have those words. I'll repeat them. I will underline them and underline them again. The government of the United States is in no way founded on the Christian religion. How do you explain that one?
Well, I explain it exactly as you just have, which is it's the Treaty of Tripoli, okay? And these Muslim pirates were stealing our sailors, and we wanted it to come to an end. And it's not even as though John Adams negotiated this directly. In fact, tellingly, I think it was negotiated by an acolyte of Jefferson, a Jeffersonian diplomat. And so, but all of that to say, I don't really dismiss your point. You're right that there was some confusion among the founding fathers, and they certainly didn't found the country as hierocratic or theocratic or anything like that. Theocracy just being government by clerics. Certainly it isn't. Though I am skeptical of your suggestion that for every pro-Christian point that I could find in the Federalist Papers or the Declaration, or at least implicit in the Declaration, or in the private correspondence of John Adams or Madison, for that matter, that you could find another point on the other side. I agree. You can find a lot of confusing messages and even contradictions there, but I think the evidence is overwhelmingly on the side of Christianity in some form or another. So yes, you're right. The president signs a prudential treaty to preserve some of our sailors, and he tries to assuage the Muslims because he knows the only way to get them to stop is to say, "We're not really a Christian nation, don't worry." But I think that that little treaty with those random little Muslim pirates taken against all of the other documents and the whole century and a half of American history that we've cited, it doesn't quite hold up. I think there are better arguments for
And
secularism.
I think that little treaty, signed and directed towards that random little British king is also not particularly relevant here, especially given that you just said
Hold on it.
Christianity. You just
You're
said
telling me
Christ.
that the Declaration of Independence and the Treaty of Tripoli are on equal standing and significance to American history? You don't believe that?
No, I don't believe that. What I do believe is that they're both equally relevant to the present conversation, because you said a moment ago, it was quite funny how you said, I dispute this claim that you say that every reference I have to Christianity in the letters of Thomas Jefferson, in the Federalist Papers, in the Declaration of Independence, and then stops yourself and said, or I suppose, implied
Yeah.
by the Declaration of Independence, because you pick an example where Christianity is not mentioned at all. It doesn't get a mention. And what I want
God
to
is
say is that although
but it's implicit. The Christianity is implicit. I agree.
the Creator is mentioned, I'll give you that much.
Well,
Which,
it's not Ahura Mazda. We're not talking about some demiurge or something. I mean, presumably these men are talking about some creator, at least vaguely resembling the Christian God.
I'm going to imagine so too. However, I would say I'd refer to what I said a moment ago, which is that the founding fathers were geniuses in this regard of knowing exactly how much of their own worldview to put into the words on the page. So, although they may have been thinking of a Christian God, it may be that they think to themselves, well, let's write this in such a way that if you don't have the same view of God that I do, you can still identify with this document, especially given that the founding fathers had completely and utterly different views of God, even just amongst the company that ended up making up the Constitutional Convention. But the reason that I'm drawing a comparison here to the Treaty of Tripoli is because, of course, the Declaration of Independence they don't have the Treaty of Tripoli, in Washington D.C.
Halls of
behind
Congress,
4 inches of
National Archives.
bulletproof glass.
Right.
Yeah, but the point that the way that you say, well, yeah, okay, so John Adams was writing that America isn't Christian, but he was just doing this essentially as a rhetorical tool to help serve the political end. That's maybe what I'm suggesting is happening in the Declaration of Independence. It's more relevant because, of course, it's the Declaration of Independence. But in the same way that when I was saying a moment ago, the Declaration of Independence is just this document that's supposed to inspire what is a predominantly Christian nation to revolution, he's going to say, yeah, endowed by their creator, even though really, that maybe isn't what he privately thinks, but he writes it because he's trying to achieve a political end.
I think
And so
you've
in
just
the same way that John Adams does that with the Treaty of Tripoli, the difference is that in the Treaty of Tripoli, John Adams specifically references Christianity, and in the Declaration of Independence,
sure.
Jefferson does
Well,
not.
I think you've just made my point, though, accidentally, which is we have to consider who the Treaty of Tripoli is designed to persuade, a bunch of foreign Muslim pirates, and who the Declaration is designed to persuade. It's addressed to King George, but it's obviously to persuade the American colonists. So why is it that the Continental Congress believed that they had to appeal to broadly religious, red Christian principles to persuade the Americans? It's because they were broadly religious and, in fact, Christian. And they write about this too. So if your argument is some of these founding fathers, they might have pretended to be a bit more Christian than they actually were, I think you're probably right about that. But I think that also kind of proves my point, because when we talk about whether or not America is a Christian nation, I'm not even particularly concerned with the idle musings of Thomas Jefferson or even John Adams, who I prefer to Thomas Jefferson. I'm more concerned about that lowercase c Constitution. What kind of a country is this really in practice, beyond the declarations of a president or two, or even some of the elected representatives who perhaps have different views than most people?
If you enjoyed that clip, you can watch the full conversation by clicking the link on your screen. And if you want to get early access to my videos, as well as getting them ad-free and support the channel at the same time, then go to patreon.com/AlexOC. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one.